The fact of the matter is that we have a growing right-wing movement in this country funded by some of the wealthiest people in America, including the Koch brothers, a family that has made their money in fossil fuels and are worth over $70 billion. $70 billion is their worth. And they are worth $70 billion. They have access to the best health care in the world. They have access to the best housing in the world. Their family members can go to the best colleges and universities in the world. But they are obsessed by, among other things, making sure that 20 or 25 million Americans have no health insurance at all. Now, I am a strong supporter of a Medicare for All single-payer program. I don't think that the Affordable Care Act went far enough. But to say the least, that when 20 or 25 million Americans can finally have access to health insurance, go to the doctor when they need to go to that doctor, make sure that there are no regulations that prevent them from getting care because of pre-existing conditions. Can you imagine, Mr. President, billionaires going to war against working people so that they and their kids cannot get health insurance? I mean, I think that is just obscene. That is just obscene. So let me just quote from the New York Times of yesterday. And it's important that people understand that the fight against the Affordable Care Act really is just the tip of the iceberg. That you have families and billionaires like the Koch brothers who not only want to see that we don't expand health insurance in this country, they have a long list of issues that they're going after. In fact, they want to repeal virtually every major piece of legislation passed in the last 80 years that protect the middle class and working families, women, children, the elderly, the sick, and the poor. That is their agenda. That is their agenda. So it's not a question of opposing the extension of health insurance through Obamacare. That's not enough for them. What they want to do is end Medicare as we know it right now, transform it into a voucher system, give an elderly person $8,000 who's dealing with cancer and say, good luck to you. They want to make massive cuts in Medicaid. They don't want to expand Medicaid, massive cuts. They are very clear about wanting to end Social Security. They don't believe the federal government should be involved in retirement issues and Social Security. One of the more amazing things of what these guys want to do, and many of our Republican colleagues apparently have drank the lemonade on this issue, is they want to abolish the concept of the minimum wage. Minimum wage now federally is $7.25 an hour. People can't live on that. And their idea is to get the federal government out of the minimum wage issue, no floor, so that if an employer in a hard-pressed area in Maine or in Vermont or in Michigan can pay people $4 an hour, they think that's freedom. You have the freedom to work for $4 an hour. We don't want a federal minimum wage. So in other words, what these right-wing extremists and the big money behind them, they have a major agenda of which repealing Obamacare is just one small part of it. Let me just quote, if I might, and I would ask unanimous consent, Mr. President, to submit the entire New York Times article into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. Let me just quote from the article, yesterday's New York Times. The current budget brinksmanship is just the latest development in a well-financed, broad-based assault on the health law, Mr. Obama's signature legislative initiatives. Groups like Tea Party Patriots, Americans for Prosperity, and Freedom Works are all immersed in the fight, as is Club for Growth, a business-backed nonprofit organization. Some, like Generation Opportunity and Young Americans for Liberty, both aimed at young adults, are upstarts. Heritage Action is new, funded in 2010 to advance the policy prescriptions of its sister group, the Heritage Foundation. The billionaire Koch brothers, Charles and David, have been deeply involved with financing the overall effort. Let me repeat that. The billionaire Koch brothers, Charles and David, have been deeply involved with financing the overall effort. Remember, these are the guys who are worth $70 billion, who want to essentially repeal every major piece of legislation protecting working families over the last 80 years. And let me go back to the article. Quote, a group linked to the Kochs, Freedom Partners Chamber of Commerce, dispersed more than $200 million last year, $200 million last year, to nonprofit organizations involved in the fight, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I want to go to another paragraph, and this is really interesting and really important. The groups have also sought to pressure vulnerable Republican members of Congress with scorecards keeping track of their health care votes, have burned faux Obama cards on college campuses, and have distributed scripts of phone calls to congressional offices, sample letters to editors, and Twitter and Facebook offerings for followers to present as their own. What's going on here? What does that mean? This is what it means. As a result of the disastrous Supreme Court ruling called Citizens United, what billionaires like the Koch brothers and others can do, and what they are doing today, is saying to Republicans in the House of Representatives, if you vote for a clean, continuing resolution, if you vote to keep the government open, if you make it very clear that you will oppose any effort to see the United States default on its debts, if you do that, let me tell you what's going to happen to you. Because we have the Koch brothers and people worth billions of dollars who are prepared to jump into your campaign, perhaps to get a primary opponent against you and to fund that opponent with as much money as he or she needs. So what democracy now in the House, as a result of Citizens United, is about is a handful of billionaires can threaten any member of the House with defeat by pouring in unlimited sums of money if they vote in a way that the Koch brothers do not like. Now, if that's how people think American democracy is supposed to function, it would surprise me very much. That's not what American democracy is supposed to be about. And, Mr. President, that tells me again why we have got to do everything that we can to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision so that a handful of billionaires cannot dictate public policy here in the United States of America and in the United States Congress.